In most of the couples, it has been shown that the man is older than the woman, but this time is different. There is a story between a young man and the woman who loves him. That's what happened to Sakita Kuki, a 20-year-old manga assistant, who fell in love with the woman he was working for. He was working as a manga assistant for Akinabe Kira, a mangaka who had stolen his heart and had become his partner. It all started when Sakita decided to join Akinabe and become her assistant. He was a kind-hearted and blushing person, but apart from that, he's very talented as a background artist. He was a very persistent person as he immersed himself in the art of drawing manga. One day he had an idea. He wanted his manga to start at the moment when the heroine takes off her panties. However, he couldn't stop himself because he was fantasizing about Akinabe-san taking off her panties at that very moment, and that made him nervous. Luckily, he was able to control himself and get out of the distraction. He started to concentrate on the background that he was into. After finishing his panels, he would immediately send them to Akinabe and ask for her suggestions. She was so impressed and captivated by Sakita's drawings that she couldn't help but praise him a lot. However, this admiration turned into a real challenge for Sakita, who referred to it as his destructive power. When it comes to Sakita's drawings, Akinabe-san rarely throws normal or common praise. Instead, she gives extravagant compliments. As a result, every compliment from Akinabe leaves him feeling thoroughly embarrassed and crushed. He utterly understands that Akinabe is 4 years older than him, but it is not a big matter for him to have a date with this gorgeous woman from Sakita's perspective. Akinabe-san was the author of Crimson Witch and already admired her manga since long ago. Before going on a date with Akinabe-san, he approached her and expressed his desire to be her assistant. He didn't mind that Akinabe is strict since his determination to work with her as her manga assistant was unwavering. This is where all of this hassle has begun. Akinabe-san is overproud over Sakita's drawing. Whenever this moment occurs, Sakita blushes and makes him turn utterly red. This made him feel pleasure and made his heart beat faster. Most of the time he struggles whenever this moment comes up and denies his feelings. Not often he tried to aware himself that his feelings were not what they called love. He ensures that his feelings are just between the mangaka and her liege. As he interprets that this destroyed his concentration, he walks out of the room and asks permission to go to the toilet. Inside the toilet, he manages feeling and emotion toughly. He inhales deeply and tries hard to steady up himself, and he stays calm down. Once everything is good, he is ready to go out and get back to the room where he tackles his projects. As he entered the room, he saw Akinabe-san standing up there brewing a cup of coffee. Akinabe-san diverted his attention and stared at him deeply, with a cold and chill expression as usual. Unpredictably, out of nowhere, she spread out words that made Sakita flustered. She asked whether Sakita had feelings for her or not. Of course, this made Sakita freeze up for a moment, as he still denied his feelings to Akinabe-san. Therefore, he explained that he did have huge respect for her and admired her manga so much. Without hesitation, she immediately asks Sakita out on a date. This sudden confession really made him speechless and checkmate since he was overwhelmed over embarrassed feeling, just like a bunch of flowers rushing over him. But after long reckoning and consideration, he recognized his true feelings for Akinabe and made him also confess back to Akinabe. A broad smile appears on Akinabe's face as he feels joyful and delighted in the moment. Eventually, this is just the beginning of the love story of a mangaka assistant with his boss. Akinabe-sensei follows a daily regimen. She wakes up at 7, starts her day by brewing a cup of coffee, and revitalizes her morning with a cigarette, using her exhaust fan. After indulging in her morning routine, she grabs some food and gets ready to work by 9 a.m. Meanwhile, Sakita waits on the roadside, scrolling through his cell phone as he anticipates his boss, Akinabe-sensei. It's still 40 minutes before their scheduled appointment to go to work together, but his excitement drives him to arrive early despite the cold weather. Akinabe has been preparing for about 4 hours when she spots Sakita through the window. She decides to walk downstairs to meet him in person. With her caring personality, she shows her attention toward him. After a short conversation, they head into Akinabe-sensei's house together. In the cozy morning atmosphere, the couple immerses themselves in their manga project. Suddenly, Akinabe-sensei confesses to Sakita that she woke up early, around 4 a.m., because she knew he would come over. This confession flusters Sakita, and his heartbeat quickens as he feels his face heat up. He begins to think they may share mutual feelings. Akinabe-sensei traces her finger along Sakita's cheek and holds it gently, making him even more embarrassed under her gaze. He can hear his heartbeat as he stares back at her. Akanabe-sensei speaks softly, telling him that he is welcome to come over even earlier than usual so they can spend more time together. Noticing Sakita's embarrassment, Akanabe-sensei asks why he feels that way. He shyly covers his mouth and admits that her actions and words make him feel embarrassed. Akanabe-sensei is momentarily speechless as she feels content knowing how much Sakita cares for her, even if her expression doesn't fully convey it. In that moment, she leans closer and expresses a desire to kiss him. He feels both aware and shocked. He speaks but stammering as he has difficulties to speak up when Akanabe leans her face closer to him. He wants to say that he wants a kiss too, but he can't handle his embarrassment well. While he was trying to finish his sentence, she turned away and told him to keep it professional, saying it was important to keep their personal and work lives separate. She realized that if they blur the lines between business and private life, it'll never end. Akanabe gives Sakita a heads up to stop him from drawing erotic scenes. This request leaves him standing there, feeling pretty embarrassed. However, he turns him down firmly while standing up. He knows he's a bit shy, but this kind of thing isn't going to help him look any less professional. Akanabe-sensei stays at her desk, looking at him calmly. She gets what he's saying about, but she's certain that, as they're dating, there's a chance he might fantasize about her as a reference for such an improper scene in the manga. Sakita got it. He realized what his teacher was getting at. This reasoning makes sense to Sakita, who feels even more embarrassed at the thought. His face is a dead giveaway since currently he just looks as red as a tomato. It's pretty clear that he's just had a flash of insight into an erotic scene involving Akanabe-san. So Akanabe-sensei quickly understands the situation and gives him some advice. She keeps calm with her relaxed demeanor and asks him not to force himself to draw erotic scenes, remembering his embarrassment. By then, she gives him the reassurance that if he really wants that, he can gain real experience in the future with her. Akanabe's words were so surprising that Sakita was momentarily stunned and overwhelmed by a rush of embarrassment. As they work together to finish their project, the sound of pencils scratching against paper creates a bond between Akanabe and Sakita. Currently, Sakita is in rush state as he tried his best to work on his part for a character called Iron. This character represents his sensei a lot as she is performed as fast worker, brave, strong, and as though as a castle. These all were the name is coming from. After a moment, Sakita has struggled for his part. He finally finished it in proper time as Akanabe's expectation. Akanabe realized if this is already over time of their day off, but the project is not finished yet whereas it needs to be submitted tomorrow. Akanabe asks her assistant to get back home and feels sorry since she asked him for overtime today. Sakita firmly refuses to let his girlfriend work alone, feeling a sense of guilt for the delay caused by him. With his resilient attitude, he is determined to help Akanabe complete their project. Akanabe explains that the true reason for the delay is her decision to modify half of the story, which has resulted in a rushed effort to finish everything. Sakita immediately expresses his belief that the current version of the story is an improvement and assures her that readers will appreciate it. Nevertheless, he remains steadfast in his desire to assist his girlfriend. He promises to give his best effort in drawing each panel to help finish the work. Despite his unassuming appearance, he is more resilient than he seems. His determination remains unshaken, and he always radiates positivity, which endears him even more to Akanabe. As the clock strikes midnight, they finally overcome their difficulties and complete the project. Akanabe stretches her body, feeling heavy and exhausted. She suggests Sakita to take a taxi home and take care of himself. As she walks into her bedroom and lies down, she quickly nods off. Sakita, who is watching her from afar, comes closer and gently places his hand over hers, sharing his warmth with her after the long day. He understands how tired she is. Unfortunately, his presence wakes her up. As she blinks her eyes open, she feels more energized and content. Eager for a cuddle, she asks her shy boyfriend to join her, but he hesitates as he is not ready yet for such intimacy. Akanabe feels a bit disappointed but can understand the current situation. She realizes there's no need to rush their relationship. Instead, she decides to continue her project as she said that love from Sakita gave her 1,000,000 times more strength than sleeping could. The next day, it's time to submit their scripts or manga projects to the editor. Akanabe-sensei walks inside the building and heads to the publishing company to meet Kakami Haruka, her professional manga editor. Kakami-san is actually 7 years older than her. Despite Kakami being older, she has a youthful appearance and is shorter than Akanabe. Upon meeting, Kakama suddenly throws her a question of why Akanabi submitted the work later than usual, since it's uncommon for her to do so. Additionally, Kakami observes significant changes in the story compared to their previous discussions. When Kakami expresses her concerns, Akanabi quickly responds that she has a boyfriend. This revelation surprises Kakami, as she had never seen her as someone who is interested in relationships. Akanabi said whenever she saw him, she can't help but add more details and description of the characters' minds. But she isn't sure that the current manga is way more interesting than the previous version, as what Sakita said last night. It's a bit frustrating for Kakami, since she assumes that Akanabi should tell her and consult her for any improvisation in the story. While conflicted, Kakami also feels happy for Akanabi, as she is recognizing how much she has changed for the better. At the moment, Akanabi asked her how to express love to the partner without made him feel embarrassed. However, Kakami can't answer the question, as she does not have any experience in love and relationship. Despite they tend to focus back on their work so it can be released soon. Days turn into weeks as they finish the work on time. Still stay in their workspace, Akanabi and Sakita take a moment to breathe before preparing for their next project. During their leisure time, Akanabi invites Sakita to visit her house the following weekend. Sakita is puzzled as their work has been completed, but he does not know why he should visit her so soon. He hasn't fully realized they were now in a relationship. Akanabi clarifies her invitation, stating that she wants Sakita to visit her as a boyfriend, not just as a manga assistant. Sakita is astonished at the idea of acting as a boyfriend. He struggles with the thought on what clothes he should wear tomorrow, or even how to address Akanabi in person. He usually called her sensei, but he realized it doesn't suit to call her this way beyond of the work. This new dynamic feels awkward for him, since it's also his first experience in this role. In the middle of the night, Sakita reached out to Akanabi by call. He is expressing his concern about what to call his girlfriend. Nonetheless, Akanabi expressed that nickname is not a big deal. She wasn't much worried about the sweet nickname itself. She would feel comfortable for any name which coming from her boyfriend. This confession left Sakita quite embarrassed, as evidenced by the redness in his face. Meanwhile, Akanabi was strolling around a convenience store late at night, holding her cell phone close to her ear as she continued her conversation with Sakita. She bluntly told him that she was about to buy condoms for their plans in the following day. She even mentioned her confusion in which condoms she needs to buy. Her words surprised Sakita at the moment, who felt unprepared for such matters since he supposes that they had only just started dating. He scolded Akanabi at the moment as he grumbled at the idea, thinking that it was too soon for such things. In response, he asked Akanabi not to buy them, concerned about other boys noticing her while purchasing protection. After for a brief reckon, he decided that he would buy them himself, even though he was unsure when they would actually use them. He tells Akanabi that tomorrow he just wants them to focus in quality time. By then, Akanabi can understand the situation. She supposes that Sakita just wants her for himself, thus she said that Sakita shouldn't be much worry as she is only belonging to Sakita. These words left Sakita in speechless and rushed by a bunch of embarrassment. Finally, the much-anticipated day had arrived, bringing with it a perfect weekend filled with fresh air as Sakita walked to his girlfriend's house. However, upon arriving, he was greeted by a woman who opened the door with a grim expression. She is Akanabi-san with her gloomy vibes. Sakita immediately feels terrible, assumes if his arrival had ruined Akanabi's mood. But he was mistaken, as the reason for her sour demeanor was that her editor had requested her to finish the magazine cover soon. Since she still had more work to complete, she asked Sakita to stay inside but in another room. She worried that if they were in the same space, her desire to talk with him would distract her from finishing her task. At the moment Akanabi left him, Sakita took a set and abruptly felt frustrated, having missed the chance to call her a proper nickname. He had been too focused on Akanabi's earlier expression, which made it seem like she wanted to devour the world. Feeling restless, he got up and wandered around the kitchen, trying to think of ways to help his girlfriend feel better after her long day of work. After some contemplation, he came up with a fantastic idea. Since he was already in the kitchen, he decided to prepare lunch for her. It was almost 2 p.m. by the time Akanabi realized how engrossed she had become in her work, barely finishing her deadline. Once she completed her task, she quickly sent the cover to her editor. At the moment, she is also feeling exhausted and guilty for ignoring Sakita for so long. Slowly, she made her way to the kitchen, drawn in by the delicious smell of food. She's surprised as she found her boyfriend standing in front of the table arranging lunch for her. This thoughtful gesture touched her deeply, far beyond what she had expected from him. She walked up to him and hugged him from his back. This sudden embrace overwhelmed Sakita as he felt the warmth of her hug and her good smell, while a rush of pleasure attacked him and made his heart race as fast. Since Akanabi looked at the table, she noticed that Sakita had made her a hamburger steak. The sight was so heartwarming that she couldn't help but shower him with lavish praise, leaving him momentarily speechless. After finishing their meal, Akanabi couldn't have been happier with the food. She thoroughly enjoyed it. While they washed the dishes, she asked Sakita to call her by her last name. This request stemmed from a memory of entering the kitchen and hearing him murmur her last name, which made her want to make the request be manifested. This sudden moment left Sakita flustered. Once their meal finished, they found themselves unsure of what they need to do next, as this was their first at-home date, and neither had a proper plan for such an occasion. For a long consideration, Akanabe suggested to watch a movie together. Without any hesitation, Sakita agreed and let her choose the movie. In meantime, Sakita chose the movie which had similarities to her manga, either in character traits or even plot. Sakita was astonished to discover that the movie closely resembled his sensei's manga. Akanabe, who realized it, confessed him that she chose the movie as she comprehended how much he loves her manga, and this movie has story which similar and close enough with her manga. This definitely made him get red and embarrassed even more. Instead of getting overwhelmed by his embarrassment, Sakita tends to respond her and confess that he loves it well with sincere smile. Akanabe was carried away by this occasion, and suddenly, she felt encouraged to make a move. She leaned down, slowly pushing Sakita back onto the couch and staring deeply into his eyes, as if she were about to kiss him passionately. Nevertheless, the characters on the screen broke the atmosphere. Both of them immediately snapped back to reality, realizing it was still too early for such intimate gestures. Overwhelmed and stunned, Sakita found it hard to concentrate on the movie afterward, and eventually asking for the title so he could watch it later at home. As time passed, the couple grew more comfortable with each other, but soon it was time for their first outdoor date. Apparently Sakita is already well prepared for this. While walking along the street to their designated meeting place, Sakita unexpectedly encountered two boys who were flirting inappropriately with a girl. To his surprise, he recognized the girl as his sensei. Akanabe boldly stood her ground, mocking the boys who were bothering her. When she spotted Sakita arriving, she immediately hugged him, signaling to the boys that she had a boyfriend. Although the boys walked away, they insulted Sakita that he's just an average guy as they walked past him. They also mocked him as he and Akanabe don't match each other. This comment made him doubt himself and overthink the situation a whole way. Akanabe, who recognized his mood, immediately asked if he's fine. With his low tone, he confessed to Akanabe that he took those guys' words personally, but quickly reassured her that it wouldn't deter him, as he was determined to stay cheerful around her, no matter what, and certainly sure that he is the only one who Akanabe loved the most. As he tried hard to stay calm with good mood, he slaps both his cheeks to make him saying that Akanabe won't feel happy if he is depressed. After she heard his concern, to make it up and boost his mood, Akanabe invited him to go somewhere special to lift their spirits just before they decided to eat. She intended to buy matching outfits for both of them. As they picked out clothes, Akanabe accidentally chose a skirt, which reminded her of a time when friends told her that skirts didn't suit her. She felt uncomfortable recalling that moment, but Sakita spoke up with kind words, loudly expressing how fantastic and gorgeous Akanabe looked in the skirt. The enthusiasm on his face as he called her cute made her shocked, but in the same time become more confident. This compliment brought her joy while causing her to giggle softly as she is showcasing her happiness. After spending some time choosing outfits together, they continued their walk as they feel excited to find food and enjoy their time on this date. Since Sakita has some leisure time, he decides to visit his girlfriend's home. However, when he arrives, he finds that Akanabe has a guest, her best friend from art college, Yao Sakura. As Yao stands there with a sharp stare directed at Sakita, she introduces herself. Yao has a charming character. She is brave, decisive, and bold, but also gentle and caring toward those closest to her. Upon hearing the introduction, Akanabe feels misunderstood when Yao refers to her simply as Akanabe's friend. Akanabe firmly denies this, holding her chin thoughtfully, and insists that their relationship is more than just friendship, given the significant time they spent together during college. This confession brings joy to Sakura, as it reassures her that her bond with Akanabe is meaningful. Until now, Akanabe had never expressed her feelings this way. However, Akanabe quickly shifts the focus back to Sakita, who is still trying to process the situation. Sakura is having a difficult time accepting that someone could be closer to Akanabe than she is. Being a caring best friend, she wants to ensure if Akanabe will be safe and well treated. With a piercing stare, she asks Sakita if he has serious intentions regarding his relationship with Akanabe. She recalls how in the past, Akanabe had been surrounded by foolish men who only aim for her money. There are not few men who also only appreciate Akanabe for her beauty and physique. Thus, by these reasons, she worries that Sakita might be that kind of guy. Gathering his courage, Sakita gulps and expresses uncertainty, even though he knows he hasn't done anything wrong. In the midst of this confusion, Akanabe chimes in, reminding everyone of the positive moments they had during their dates. For instance, she recalls an outing where Sakita insisted to refuse when Akanabe was about to pay his clothes, as eventually he paid his own clothes. This leads Sakura to conclude that Sakita doesn't seem to be the type of guy seeking financial gain from his girlfriend. Still reflecting on their dating experiences, Sakura suddenly asks Sakita if they have ever held hands. He admits that they did during their first at-home date. Hearing this, Sakura can't accept the idea and chastises Akanabe for not being aware of herself, allowing Sakita to hold her hand. However, Akanabe doesn't see this as a big deal. In fact, she adds that she is also interested in Sakita physically. She also had noticed that he sometimes stares at her chest, which made her confidently assume that Sakita is also has interested to her body. Sakura feels embarrassed and struggles to accept what she's just heard. Despite recognizing that Sakita is not a bad guy evidenced by the affection on Akanabe's face when she talks about him, she feels disappointed and failed. She realizes now Akanabe already has a boyfriend, meaning she will spend more time with him, especially during Christmas Eve. Feels upset, Sakura throws her jacket down and dashes out of the house. Sakita is left speechless by the weird act of Sakura, unable to grasp her outburst. However, Sakura's intense demeanor reminds him of the character Cherry from Crimson Witch, and he feels compelled to take an autograph of her since he's a fan of the series. As Sakura left the house, Akanabe and Sakita were moving the sofa back to its original position since Sakura had moved it earlier. At that moment, Akanabe mentioned that Sakura is the author of First Love in Tokyo. Sakita was shocked upon hearing this. The shoujo manga is one of his favorites due to its delicate storytelling that captivated him. He could hardly believe that Sakura is the author he admires, but in the same time she is also Akanabe's best friend. Additionally, she serves as a model for one of the characters in Crimson Witch. What a remarkable combination. He really wanted to get her autograph. However, he felt unsure because the last time she left the house, she exhibited signs of dislike toward him. Akanabe tried to reassure her boyfriend, confident that Sakura would return soon to retrieve her jacket. Indeed, a few minutes later, Sakura returned to Akanabe's house with her shivering body. She immediately asks for her jacket back, although she felt awkward and ashamed for having run off in a huff, but had ultimately come back for her jacket. In a caring manner, Sakita handed her the jacket and offered to make a cup of tea for her. However, Sakura misinterpreted his kindness, thinking he had feelings for her despite her earlier actions. She firmly stated that she couldn't accept his feelings because she would never betray her best friend, even though Sakita hadn't said anything to suggest that. This startled Sakita, as he realized Sakura had completely misunderstood the situation. Meanwhile, Akanabe found the confusion between them as amusing. She understood Sakita's nature as a kind-hearted and caring person, but recognized that Sakura had misread his intentions. Sakura noticed Akanabe laughing and concluded that Akanabe wouldn't mind if Sakita had an interest in other girls or even for polygamy relationship. Sakita felt uncomfortable and wanted to clarify the situation, thus he confessed that he liked Sakura, but not in a romantic way. Akanabe then explained clearly to avoid the misunderstanding goes too far. She said that Sakita admired Sakura as a fan. Instead of feeling flattered by having a fan, Sakura felt uneasy because she didn't want to feel guilty about having her best friend's boyfriend as a fan. She even asked Akanabe if she was okay with it. To her surprise, Akanabe coldly replied that no matter how much Sakita admired anyone, his true feelings would always be for her. She adds that although Sakita is about to be stolen away, she will definitely take him back. Both Sakura and Sakita were taken aback by this revelation. Afterward, Sakura asked for permission to talk more with Sakita. Eventually, Akanabe allows her to talk with Sakita, and he eagerly started discussing her manga, expressing how much he loved it. Sakura then shared her thoughts on how she had inspired a character in Akanabe's manga. Akane often used real people as references, which impressed Sakura, especially since the new character designed by Akane was based on her own boyfriend. Caught up in their conversation, Sakura became excited and accidentally touched Sakita's arm. However, shortly after, Akane caught her hand and warned her not to touch Sakita too much. She reminded Sakura that she was the only one allowed to be physically affectionate with him. Realizing her mistake, Sakura apologized to Akane, assuring her that she had no intention of overstepping. At the end of the day, after Akane and Sakita finished their work, Akane noticed something while reviewing her drawings. She had a gut feeling that her boyfriend was worrying about something, even though he was trying to hide it while drawing a tree. She directly asked him about it, but Sakita insisted it wasn't a big deal and felt it was unnecessary to bring it up. He didn't want to burden her and preferred to deal with his concerns alone. Akane frowned and pouted, convinced that Sakita was hiding something from her. She was also a bit upset that he continued to call her sensei although their work was over. She mentioned that it was fine to refer to her as sensei during work, but they were now in their private time and she found it unnecessary. Talking to her boyfriend was her priority in that moment. After some time and deep consideration, Sakita finally decided to express his worries. Sakita tells that he has difficulty in drawing protagonist character for the manga that he wants to post. He supposes that the protagonist he draws isn't look charming at all. He found the design too intricate to draw and wasn't sure if he could improve upon it. After listening to his concerns, Akane offered suggestions, such as using real people as references. However, she was unsure if that method would help him. She then thought that giving gaps might be a better approach. She explained that creating gaps for each character could make them more interesting, revealing aspects of their personality that contrast sharply with their usual traits. For example, a delinquent character often portrayed as bad may actually have a big heart that cares for animals. Similarly, a plain girl wearing glasses could appear stunning once she takes their glasses off. Akane believed this method could be effective if applied correctly. Additionally, she revealed another side of herself when she was home and away from work. When Sakita wasn't around, she often felt nervous and blushed over the sweet gestures he showed her. Just thinking about him could make her flustered. However, she quickly returned to her usual demeanor, which was cold and composed. She thought that showing such expressions made her appear silly and immature. Besides, she felt that adopting a cute persona might cause her boyfriend to lose interest. Therefore, she preferred to act mature since she was older and wanted to be the ideal sensei he admired. Being flustered and embarrassed was not something she wanted to display, so she chose to keep those feelings to herself. She further explained that giving gaps to characters could make them appear more attractive while highlighting their cute sides. After some contemplation, Sakita agreed that incorporating gaps in his character design might be helpful and decided to try this method to tackle his difficulties with the protagonist. Meanwhile, while paying attention to Akane's explanations, Sakita felt a bit flustered as he caught a glimpse of this adorable side of her when she became shy. He confessed his feelings, unable to hide his admiration for her beauty. Meanwhile, Akane confessed back as Sakita can easily embarrassed, but he finally can manage to speak earnestly when he wants to convey something. This is what made her fall to him even more. Finally, the day women eagerly await is approaching. It's Valentine's Day. As the occasion draws near, Akane-san has decided to assemble and make sweet chocolates intended for Sakita. To help her with this endeavor, she invites Sakura, who is skilled in cooking, to teach her. She also invites Kakami, her personal editor, to act as a tester for the chocolates. The cooking takes place outside her house, where Akane has found a safe space to prepare the treats. This is the first time Sakura has the opportunity to meet Akane's editor, and she is a bit surprised that Akane chose her own editor as the taster. Akane feels uncertain about this decision, recalling how terrible she used to be at cooking and how she ruined everything back in college. Despite her past shortcomings, Akane still wants her editor to be the tester for this cooking experiment. She has thought this through carefully, wanting someone who won't make her feel guilty about her food preparations. After a while, Kakami strolls over. She stops in front of Akane and Sakura, but keeping some distance. She calls out to Akane, asking whether there will be any games involved. Since Akane isn't into that sort of thing, Kakami realizes this and grabs a microphone to start singing randomly. Sakura understands now why Akane chose her as a taster. It's pretty clear because Kakami has a quirky personality. Choosing Sakura as a cooking teacher proves to be a great decision since she has experience making handmade chocolates. Both of them don their aprons and get ready to start cooking. Before they begin, Akane tells Sakura that she wants to create chocolates that will make Sakita fall for her even more, compelling him to hug her tightly and never let go, all from just one bite. Akane says this with a cute expression, but deep down, she knows such an outcome is unlikely. Even with Kakami as the tester, this is their first attempt, and it might turn out to be a disaster. Nonetheless, they are aware of the risks involved. Eventually, they decide to make chocolate truffles. First, they cut a chocolate bar into pieces and place it in a bowl. Then, they pour in some heated fresh cream and whisk the mixture until it reaches a creamy consistency. Everything goes perfectly until they are almost finished. For the final step, they put the mixture in the fridge for about 30 minutes, allowing it to set so they can shape it later, following Sakura's plan. While they wait, they decide to take a break. At that moment, Akane pulls out a cigarette and starts smoking. Sakura, surprised, thought that Akane had quit smoking. Akane clarifies that she stopped smoking at home to avoid secondhand smoke, as she cares about Sakita's health and believes smoking could shorten his lifespan. Sakura understands her best friend's feelings and refrains from offering any criticism. Since they need to wait for the dough, Sakura tries to take a short nap. However, the plan backfires and they end up waiting for an hour. By that time, the truffles are no longer shaped as they should be. Sakura feels disappointed, believing she has ruined everything. Akane explains that she hesitated to wake Sakura, fearing it would upset her, so she decided to handle it herself. However, she shares the disappointment as the truffles have also failed. Kakami, the tester, is overwhelmed as she prepares to taste the failed truffles, and her expression betrays her feelings. Despite this, she claims the taste isn't bad at all. After several attempts, Akane finally succeeds in making the truffles and decorates them properly so she can give them to her boyfriend later. Time flies and Valentine's Day arrives. It's a surprise for Sakita when he receives handmade chocolates from his beloved girlfriend. Akane proudly mentions that Sakura helped her prepare these chocolates, which are particularly special because they are filled with Akane's love. Sakita's face turns red, overwhelmed by the gesture. Without hesitation, Akane urges him to eat the chocolates right away before they melt. Meanwhile, in another place, Kakami receives a box of friend chocolates from her best friend, but she feels a sense of trauma, having been a taster for Akane's chocolates in the past.